My name is Reed Blakemore, Director of the Atlantic Council's Global Energy Center. I'm here with Brian Menell, the founder, chairman, and CEO of TechMet. Brian, the work you're doing in this space around critical mineral investments, critical mineral supply chains is hugely critical, but an under-addressed issue, I find, at the COP this year. Why have you come to Dubai for this COP? What are you seeing as the key areas of importance for your work? And then I think we can dive into some really strong thinking around how we carry the minerals agenda forward.
Thanks, Reed. And firstly, if I could commend and thank the Atlantic Council for doing the work you've done on the energy transition and on critical minerals, which has been a massively important contributor to educating and conscientizing the world to the important role that critical minerals supply chain security has if we're going to meet climate change goals. It's great to be at COP, and it's nice that critical minerals are somewhat on the agenda, but they're still at the fringe of the agenda, and they should be at the center of the agenda. We cannot meet any of these goals, and we cannot have a successful energy transition without radically transforming our industry, the metals and mining industry, in terms of volumes, in terms of governance, ESG standards and carbon footprint, and in terms of independence and resilience from a global geopolitical and European and US national security point of view.
So we're here at COP. You're right, it's a little bit on the fringes. In your mind, how do we bring mineral supply chains and the reality that these resources are paramount importance to every single one of the goals that we're talking about here at COP. How do we get that more attention? How do we elevate those ideas? And frankly speaking, how do we elevate companies such as yours, which are thinking really creatively in this space?
It's a process, and it's a process that takes time. We've made massive progress in the last 2 or 3 years with respect to data and analysis and recognition on the part of the media, government agencies, and end users of these products, such as the auto industry. But we're out of time. So somehow from an educational point of view, and hence from an action point of view, rather than just a talk point of view, we need to radically accelerate. Our industry needed to deploy $100 billion in critical minerals production and processing 3 or 4 years ago to avoid the structural cliff of undersupply for lithium, nickel, cobalt, rare earth metals that is now almost unavoidable in the next 3 or 4 years. And the implications of our ongoing failure to adequately scale production to meet the acceleration of demand are very considerable. And that's before you look at the China element of the global geopolitical landscape into which we are investing and building capacity.
This COP is so focused on accelerating our ambitions and accelerating our transitions. We're at the Global Decarbonization Accelerator, but you make a good point that we might be accelerating towards a structural cliff for the very resources we need to make. Looking ahead, obviously this is a 2 weeks of intense conversations, education for others on your part. What do you hope to see, December 15th onwards? What needs to happen, and what is TechMet looking to accomplish, in the next year and years onward to really not just gravitate attention towards these issues, but also really, with the idea of this being an action COP in mind, really act in a profound way?
Well, TechMet, we've got a very aggressive and ambitious program, but we are one private investment company. We're a plus or minus $1 billion company. We're part owned by the US government through the DFC, which has been enormously valuable for us. And we're building close to $10 billion of projects. So we are making a difference in alignment with the interests of US supply chains and supply chains of US economic allies. But the world needs 20 of us yesterday. So what we need is to do more of what we're doing bigger and quicker, so that the world only needs 10 of us, not 20 of us. But what we also need is government agencies and large-scale providers of private sector capital and the industries such as the auto industry and renewable energy developers who need these products in order to continue to build scale and play the role they have to play in the energy transition to really change the paradigm of how they're engaging with their supply chains, because the market is failing and our industry is failing. So while I don't want to abdicate the responsibility of the private sector, because we need to identify, feasibility study, and build projects, we do need those funding to be de-risked. We do need markets to be regulated in a way that enforces high standards in order to do what we need to do to play our role. So we don't only need more IRA or an efficiently implemented IRA and infrastructure bill. We don't only need similar measures in Europe and Japan and Korea and elsewhere to compete with the IRA, which is both a great catalyst and to a degree, industrial competitiveness, which is, or industrial protectionism, which is a wake-up call for Europe. But we need new measures on the part of government to incentivize and regulate providers of private sector capital and the industry and large global listed resource companies to do what up till now they are not doing to really make a difference in these critical mineral supply chains.
Sounds like with a level of creative thinking around how to deploy a more and better private-public partnerships, perhaps next COP, we may not have 20 TechMets, we might have 5 or 10. Is that the goalpost we should be shooting for, I think, perhaps?
Yeah, and unusually we want competition because the imperative from a global systemic risk to global systemic risks, we're at the forefront of the war against climate change. And we're also at the forefront, and I don't want to use the word war because it's emotive, of the new Cold War to balance China's aspirations, which are a threat to industrial competitiveness, jobs and growth in the US and Europe. And they are a threat to our democratic values.
So those harsh realities that are why the Atlantic Council is excited to continue to work with TechMet on these issues. It's a reason why this issue is getting so much attention in the United States and in Europe and broadly across the global South. We didn't talk much about that, but I think importantly, it's why it's absolutely imperative that we continue to elevate these issues here in the COP process. So with that, Brian, it's so great to have you here at your first COP. I imagine it'll be the first of many. I hope it will at least. And with that, we'll be doing a lot more of these live from COP interviews over the next several weeks here at COP28 in Dubai. Please stick around for our next version. And until then, see you soon.